So, get organized here. I'm calling you Ms. Worley. Do you have a rank?
I'm a senior criminalist.
But not lieutenant or captain or a senior?
Criminalist.
And what is a criminalist? Criminalist.
I'm in the lab, basically.
I'm sorry?
I'm based in the lab, the forensic lab.
But you went out to this crime scene?
I did, yes.
You normally go out to crime scenes?
At that time, yes. I was a special agent.
You were what?
I was a special agent at the time that I worked this, yes.
Okay. And a special agent is, what's so special about the special agent?
That's what SLED agents are referred to as.
Okay. Beg the court's indulgence for one moment. So, talk a little about what you did on this case, and I'm going to try not to repeat a lot of the testimony from our scintillating Friday afternoon together. When did you first go to the scene?
I responded as soon as I got the phone call at 10:33 p.m. I got on the road from my house within 30 minutes and arrived on scene at 12:07 a.m.
12:07 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you got there, the Carlton County Sheriff's Department, were they supposed to process the scene?
No,
What they were supposed to do?
secure it.
Secure it so nobody could walk over things and nobody could in any way disturb trace evidence, forensic evidence. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you got there, did you determine they had done more than just secure the scene?
They had marked some evidence that they had found before we got there.
And you also found, for instance, that we've shown you videos that they actually, some of them, or at least one of them, if not two of them, walked into the feed room where Paul was killed, correct?
Someone did to place a marker 1 in this.
I'm sorry?
Someone had walked in there to place marker 1.
And matter of fact, when you did your footwear impression examination, you found that there was a bloody footprint caused by one of the officers, isn't that right?
After we had started processing the scene, yes.
Yes, but I mean, one of the bloody footprints in that feed room was not Paul, not the perpetrator. It was a police officer,
Yes.
probably a Carlton County police officer.
I don't know that for sure.
Who else could it be?
It could have been one of us from
One of
SLED.
yours?
I don't think it was mine, but it could have been from SLED. I don't know.
It could have been SLED, could have been Carlton County, could have been the coroner.
Yeah, sure.
But, I mean, and in your business, there are rules about who should be walking through crime scenes, right?
Yeah. Preferably as few people as possible. If you don't need to be in there, then you shouldn't be in there.
And when they, went around and pulled the sheet up, they were walking in an area where most likely the perpetrator had walked, correct?
Possibly, yes.
I mean, that's right outside the feed room.
Right.
And those shell casings that were near, or some of them were near, some of them further away from Maggie's body, walking in the dark, increases the probability that some trace evidence has been disturbed or destroyed.
That's probably why they went ahead and marked evidence before we got there, because they found it and went ahead and marked it so that it wouldn't be disturbed.
But couldn't they just stood back and said, there's shell casings in there, so when you got there, you would have been, maybe you would have even waited till the next morning when you had some light, right?
No, we would have started like we did as soon as we got on scene.
Okay. Well, you did some measurements,
Yes.
and those measurements are recorded on a sketch you did,
Yes.
not to scale.
Right.
And make sure. Yeah, that's my stuff. Yeah, that's my stuff. Oh, okay. These are all the exhibits, state and defense? Where are the state exhibits? Okay. Okay, so let's look at maybe they didn't put them in. Let me ask. Any objections?
Mr. Harpoon, do you need more time before proceeding?
Well, I'm just trying to.
No, do you need more time?
No, sir, I'm ready. Let me see if she can identify this. Can you tell me what that is, please?
This is my final crime scene diagram.
Okay, and you did it.
I did.
You can identify it.
Yes.
Your Honor, we would offer this documented evidence, please. It's her crime scene.
What number would that be for the defense?
4.
Any objection? Submitted without objection.
Okay, so can you put Worley number 1 up, please? Okay, and you can see that on your screen?
Yes, sir.
And that is what I just showed you, right?
Yes, sir.
And what's important to note at the outset is this is not to scale, correct?
We never do our diagrams to scale, no.
Okay, but it does tell us some things.
Yes.
You found a projectile that went through the doghouse,
That's right.
and you found a projectile that went through the small animal cage.
We didn't locate that projectile, but one did go
But
through.
you had an entrance and exit wound.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
And now these yellow items over here near Maggie's body, those represent blackout ejected shells.
Yes, those are the evidence markers marking 300 blackout.
Okay, and did you take measurements of where those were compared to anything else? For instance, we see a 23.9 between this post and that post. Did you do anything like that for the projectiles?
I don't believe I did the doghouse because it was inside the bedding of the doghouse.
I'm sorry, what now?
We didn't measure the projectile that was in the dog bed.
No, I'm talking about these yellow.
Yes.
Okay, did you measure where they were?
Yes.
And there are measurements somewhere?
I believe on the second page of the second page of my diagram should be the measurements.
Let me go to page 2. Do you have your report with you?
I do.
Do you have that page 2? I want to make sure I'm referring to the right one. Page 2 of 8, right?
Yes.
Okay, and when it says you measured them RP1, RP2, what does that mean?
That's reference point. So this corner of the feed room was reference point 1. This column was reference point 2, and this column was reference point 3.
Okay, can you find page 2 for me, please? You have that? Okay, well, I'll come back and show this on the Elmo in a little while. Do we have a copy of it? Not yet. What I'd like to do is, let me give you yours back. And ask you, what I do? Here it is. Is that what we were just looking at?
Yes,
And are these your calculations?
they are.
And this is what you recorded?
Yes.
Any objection?
No.
I'm sorry?
No objection.
No objection, okay. Your Honor, I'd like to offer this into evidence. I think it's defense 5.
Is that medic?
We'll go back and look at that again in a minute. And so, can I have Roy number 1 up? Okay, so you located these shell casings, right?
Right.
You did measurements of how far the small animal cage was from a reference point?
Yes.
And how far did you, what was the reference point for the doghouse?
I'm not sure that I measured the doghouse to a reference point.
You did not measure the doghouse?
I don't think so.
Okay, so let's get a little more. Could you put KNW 1644 up, please? Let me show this to her. Sorry, I'm getting myself right. Can you tell me what this is a photo of?
It's the doghouse.
Well, and but did you make this, or was this done under your supervision?
Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, we'd offer this into evidence.
No objection.
Number 6.
Is that medic?
Now, hold on one second. So to give the jury some sense of, and your sketch, I'm not saying your sketch is bad, it's not to scale though, and to give them some idea of the layout, this is the doghouse,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that's right.
This is what you call the small animal cage right here,
Right.
and that's off the ground,
It has legs, yes.
legs, right? The doghouse has got like a couple of 2x4s under it, so it's not laying directly on the ground, correct?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then, if we look over to the right, that would be the door to the feed room where Paul was shot and killed,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
So we're all singing from the same sheet of music here. There's the small animal, I'm calling quail, but it's not. Is it quail? Quail, they apparently kept quail in there. And then there's the doghouse, and then there's the door to the feed room. Did you do any measurements, or can you give us any, if you're standing at the quail pen right over here, and you're looking at a 90-degree angle, that is out in front of you, am I right on that 90 degrees?
Okay.
Are you looking at the door to the feed room, or is it to the right or the left? Well, let me ask you this. Did you take any measurements?
Not directly from the cage to the door, no.
Can you tell me what is it, a 10 degree this way, 10 degree that way? I mean,
I'd have to look at the photographs. If any of the photographs show from the door to that animal cage or the animal cage to the door, I could see if it was at an angle or not, but
you didn't take any measurements when you were on, when were you on the scene doing these measurements?
my initial measurements were the night of the incident, and then that picture was taken July 16th when we went back to take additional measurements.
And it was after July 16th you generated the sketch we saw a moment ago?
No, I think I did this before we went back to the scene on the 16th.
So nothing changed in your sketch?
No.
And to your knowledge, you never took any sort of directional examination of the reference points, for instance, the dog pen and the door to the feed room, or from the quail cage to the door of the feed room, correct?
That's right.
Okay, now, do you know what, hold on one second. Do we have Pharaoh? Do we have Pharaoh? No? Yes, okay. What's Pharaoh? Tell the jury what Pharaoh is.
The Pharaoh is a 3D laser scanner that we use to document scenes.
Okay, did you use a Pharaoh scanner on this scene?
On the July 16th we did. We couldn't the night of the incident because it was raining.
So tell us how one scans for a Pharaoh, and by the way, is the end result of that Pharaoh process a three-dimensional view of the scene?
Yes, that's right.
And so that you can manipulate it, turn it, examine it in any direction you want, correct?
Yes.
And you had that done in this case?
Yes.
I did not hear the Attorney General ask you about it in your direct. Was it brought here to the courtroom?
I believe it's here, yes.
It's here. Okay. Well, I have a copy of what you furnished to us. Any objection to this coming into evidence?
No objection.
All right. Can you play that for me? Wait 1 second. Does Pharaoh stand for something, or is it a brand name like Coca-Cola or Xerox? Or
It's a brand name. I think it does stand for something. I'm not sure what. We just always call
but
it
it's
Pharaoh.
a brand. When somebody says Pharaoh, it's not. There's a specific commercial product called Pharaoh that law enforcement uses, and other folks use too, right?
Yes.
Okay. How about play that for me, and I may stop it from time to time.
All right, I believe a juror raised his hand, Your Honor.
Yes. That box to be moved to another location so I can see that.
Yeah, I thought we apologize. Okay, start it and then stop it. Go ahead. Now stop it briefly. Is this a drone video?
No, it's created by the Pharaoh software.
Created by Pharaoh software. Okay,
Right.
go ahead. Stop it again. That would be, right down here, that would be the dog, house, right?
Right.
Okay, keep going. Okay, stop right there. Now, we're seeing the inside of, what is this room called?
I refer to it as a workshop.
Okay. And the bullet that went into the quail cage went through the quail cage and came out this wall, right?
That's right.
Okay, go ahead. Again, stop it 1 second. Make sure I look this straight on. And the quality of this isn't very good. Why is that?
I'm not really sure.
But I mean, isn't there a final product you get from this?
I'm not sure if there's something more final than, I don't do the rendering of the software, so I'm not sure if there's something more than that.
Keep going. Okay, stop. That's the quail cage right over here, correct?
That's right.
Right here. Okay, go ahead. That would be the doghouse.
Yes.
Okay, let's keep going. Stop it, please. Now, the bullet hole into the doghouse is on the side facing this greenery, or is it on this side over here?
It's on the other side.
On the other side. So there's a bullet hole that comes in here on this side.
Right, the kennel side, yes.
What now?
The side that the kennels are on.
No, the kennel's back this way, right?
Yeah, but it's on that, if you're looking at the front of the doghouse.
Okay, right. So it's coming in here,
Yes.
and where's it exiting?
It goes into the doghouse there was a dog bed in the doghouse that goes in there.
Okay, keep going. No. Stop right there. Go back just a little bit. Okay, go ahead. So as we watch it come around, you would agree with me that the doghouse is not perpendicular to, stop it, to the door to the feed room, correct?
Right.
Okay, keep going. And that would be, stop it, that would be the feed room right here, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And these are the dog kennels up here.
Right.
Okay, keep going. So you can see, that's like a chicken coop right there?
I believe so.
Okay, keep going. And that's looking at a structure that's back probably 150, 200 feet away from the kennels, right?
Yes.
It's got farm equipment in it.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. So we have, and you could take this and convert it into, well, let me ask you this. Do you know how they do this?
On scene, we take scans with the scanner. Anything the laser touches, it records. Beyond that,
Well, there's a laser touch, and then isn't there a camera that goes 360 degrees this way and 360 degrees this way, and the laser and the camera sync up, and you do a number of them.
Yes.
Maybe 100 or so, and then it knits it together
That's right.
to get this.
Yes.
But you agree with me that you could do a much more focused look. This obviously has not been converted totally to 3D, has it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Who ordered this? Who said we need this?
I'm not really sure. I was told to go to the scene and additional documentation, and that's what we did. So I'm not sure.
So, I mean, if I told you your chain of custody on this indicates it was, y'all received it sometime in July or August of last year, and it's been in the custody of SWED since early January, probably 3 weeks ago. Is that correct?
I'm not sure when it was made, but
But it wasn't turned over or pulled out of the evidence locker until 3 weeks ago, correct?
I'm really not sure.
Okay. Now, let me ask you to look at that report of the sketches, right? Well, let me do this first. Okay, let me ask you to Attorney General. I'm sorry, the multiple copies. Any objection? Let me ask you to examine these photos and see if you can identify them.
Yes.
Okay. What are they?
Those are photographs that we took when we returned on July 16th.
And these are specifically photographs of the doghouse.
Yes.
And I'll get to these in just a minute. So this would be 7.
8.
This would be 8, 9, and 10. Make sure I don't put duplicates in. Let me also show you this photograph and see if you can identify it.
Yes.
What is that?
It's a picture when we were trying to determine the angle of that defect in the doghouse.
The defect would be the bullet hole.
Yes, sir.
Offer this into evidence as number 11 without objection. 11? Right? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll have you go to the jury room for a break. Please do not discuss the case. Give you all an opportunity to review and pre-mark exhibits, determine what you agree on and do not agree on, and we'll proceed in a few minutes. y'all want to introduce any exhibits without objection?
I think all except one of the, no objection.
No objections, Your Honor.
What are the exhibit numbers?
So Your Honor, give us 1 minute, she's still marking. Do not, no, it's two separate.
The jury is present.
Thank you. Exhibit numbers.
9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
You're all admitted without objection.
So, you took measurements, for instance, let me show you the picture I want to show you to begin with, which is of the quail cage. Let me first of all show you exhibit number 20, which is Worley, page 7. If you could put that up on the screen. You recognize that?
I do.
And what is that?
It's one of the diagrams that I created,
And what's it a diagram of?
that quail cage.
Okay. Now, you did that sketch, and that sketch shows, so it says, defect interior side of cage, defect interior side wall of cage, and defect interior back wall of cage, right?
Right.
So you have an entrance and an exit hole, correct?
That's right.
Now, what did you do to try to determine the trajectory on that? Where did it come from?
We placed a flight path rod through defect J all the way through to where it went through the back wall of the cage.
Okay, and let me see, I know I have a picture of that here somewhere. Is that a picture of that rod?
It's one of the many pictures, yes.
No, but I mean, does that picture accurately depict the rod you put through, but from the exterior to the interior?
Yes.
Okay. How about put that up, please? It would be 2019. Yes. And so you're telling the jury that this is a rod that you ran from from the entrance hole to the exit hole, and what are you doing right here?
That's where we're determining the angle.
Upward or downward angle?
That's right.
Okay, now let's talk about how you determined the angle of front to back. I don't know what you call that scientifically. I mean, did you determine the angle of that rod as to the exterior wall of that?
Yes.
Okay. And based on the exhibit we saw a moment ago, the entrance wound would have been on the, how about go back to Worley, page 7. The entrance would have been on this side, correct?
Yes.
Now, the feed room, you would agree with me, is not on that side of the quail cage, correct?
That's right.
Matter of fact, this side faces the feed room, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Now, did you determine, and I can walk through all the technical things you did, but did you ultimately determine the angle, you can check your notes, the angle of the entrance hole over here to that side? That is, is that horizontal? Am I talking horizontal?
Yes.
Okay, the horizontal entrance and exit wound, if you put that rod through it, what did it tell you about the angle as opposed to that flat area?
We determined it was approximately 41 degrees.
41 degrees, and if I'm standing at that edge, is it 41 degrees to my right or my left?
I believe to the right. I'm not sure, though.
Can you look and see?
I don't have that in my notes.
Okay, let me show you a picture. It's worth 1,000 words. Just help refresh your memory.
Yes.
And so, could you put KNWL 2019 up, please? Okay, what you did was, correct me if I'm wrong, you put that rod through, and then you put a protractor up against it and then the protractor told you it was 41 degrees from flat, or
From the, where the bullet went in the wall, from that flat edge to where the angle is was 41 degrees.
Okay, and let me show you KNWL2007. Ask you a question, Susan, comes up. You know, strike that, I don't need it. Well, that's it. But that depicts that rod you put from the exterior through the interior, right?
That's right.
And so as that rod sticks out, it would be the path of the bullet.
Approximately, yes.
Approximately, okay. And it's 41 degrees from neutral.
Yes.
Or, I mean, if this were the wall of the wall the bullet went into, it would be 41 degrees would be over here.
Yes.
Right. So that side, right. Okay, and I see from that picture we showed a moment ago, you used a protractor, just like this one, maybe similar to this one, to determine that angle, right?
That's right.
And basically you just take the rod and then you put this up to it and then figure out what the angle is, right?
You line up the middle of the protractor on where the defect is, yes.
Where the bullet hole is.
Right.
Okay. Now, did you do the same thing for the dog pen, a dog house?
Yes, we did.
And let me walk you through a couple of those pictures. Okay. Let's go to page 6 of 8 of her report. Is that something you prepared?
It is.
Okay. So if we look at this, could you zoom in just a little bit for me, please? Okay, here we go. So defect 1 is the entrance hole.
It's defect I, yes.
I'm sorry?
Defect I.
Okay. And defect H is what?
We weren't sure if it was a defect. It didn't go through the wall, but we marked it.
Did you have anything that went all the way through?
Just I.
Just I. But you also stuck a rod in that, correct?
Yes, we did.
And what was the dog, this side of the dog house would be the side facing the kennels?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the angle, entrance angle on that? You put a rod through and measured, just like you did before, with a protractor. And what was the angle on that?
The horizontal angle was approximately 84 degrees.
So 84 degrees. Now the side the bullet went in was facing the dog pens.
Yes.
And as we see from the photos, approximately, I mean, again, it's just guesswork, but not square with the dog pens, a little bit further to, if you're standing in the feed room, if you're looking at the dog house, it would be a little bit to your left, correct?
That's right.
And then this trajectory into the dog house is 84 degrees, which means it's coming, if that's the feed room, it's coming from even further over here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let me have you do this for me. If I had a sketch, your sketch of the dog house and the quail cage, you could take that protractor right there and basically show the line out, correct?
From the quail cage to the doghouse?
No, from the quail cage, the trajectory, if I put down that protractor on the side where the bullet went in, it's pretty easy to identify in your sketch.
Right.
And went to, what was the first one, how many degrees? I'm sorry, I can't remember it either.
Was 41 degrees. 41 degrees.
41 degrees. on your sketch, you could follow the trajectory of that bullet out, correct?
Yes.
Do the same thing on the doghouse.
Right.
Okay. Wait 1 second. So, how about show that real quick? Okay. Is that just a blow up of what we previously put it out as?
Yes.
How about do me a favor and keep track of what the different angles are? Because I'll never remember when we get down here. So, if you step down, please. Let's get this oriented correctly. Is the doghouse on this? Okay, I'm disoriented. I'm looking at it upside down. Okay, so if you, does protractor work for you? It's got a little thing that allows you to, okay. If you take it and let's go from the quail, oh here it is, small animal cage. And the projectile came in on this side over here, correct? Okay, so if you'll come over here for me, please. And put the projector in put the protractor against the, there you go. And how many degrees did that go?
41 degrees.
Okay, could you put that on 41 degrees? Okay, and could you take that line out for me, please? Is there a way for you to draw that? This is a pretty fine point Sharpie. Okay, I'm going to hold this down. If you'll draw that line for me, please. Okay, and let's go to the dog house. What was the degrees on that?
84.
Okay, 84 degrees. Okay, and how about draw a line for that for me, please, from the side of the doghouse? That's okay. And I can get it perfect. Okay. Now, I'll take that easel now. Okay. If you just step over there for a second. Let's put that up there. Now, is that steady? So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look at the photographs and you look at, well, you look at this, the feed room door is approximately right here, correct?
That's right.
Would you circle that with a red circle for me, please? trajectory on both these shots, so let's take the small animal cage. Did that come from anywhere near the feet room?
Doesn't appear to me, no.
It would have been up, if you follow that out. Are you familiar with where that grapevine was? If you're looking at the feed room all the way to the right?
Here somewhere?
Well, I think a little bit further up than that, but even maybe beyond that, one of the shots fired by that AR, blackout, was fired from somewhere way up here, correct? I mean, that's the trajectory.
Doesn't mean, I can't tell you the distance it was from the animal cage to wherever. I can't tell you where the feeder was within that line.
But that line is way away from the right?
Right.
And this one, while it's closer, it's still many feet away from the feed door.
Yes.
So as you saw this area right here that night, you assumed, I think not assumed, but everyone sort of concluded that it was a relatively close shot into the feed room that killed Paul, correct? 2 shots.
I believe so.
Okay. Now the AR, at least this line would indicate the AR was some distance away from the feed room when those 2 shots were fired, correct? Okay. Now you recovered these projectiles. Were they tested for blood or tissue so that you could determine whether they passed through Maggie or just were misses?
I submitted it to the lab.
You don't know whether they tested them or not. If I told you they didn't test them, would that surprise you?
No.
Now, does this lead you to believe, and you're someone that processes crime scenes, I mean, if this had been sketched out the night of the I mean, you didn't take these measurements till a month later.
I took these measurements on scene the night of.
Oh, so you had these measurements?
Right.
But did you know the degrees?
No, that I didn't know.
Until July 12th. But on July 12th, did anyone go back out and walk this line to see that maybe there's shell casings way up here? No one looked up there, correct?
Not when I'm aware.
Okay, and no one did a topographical study to indicate, if you follow these lines back, whether wherever a shooter could have been were higher or lower than the doghouse or the small animal cage, right?
Right.
But doesn't this indicate to you there were 2 shooters? There was a shooter up here and a shooter down here. Is there a possibility, let me say this, is it a possibility that there are 2 shooters based on the data you collected?
It just indicated there was movement to me.
Movement from here all the way up to here?
I don't know that it went all the way up there.
But is it, I'm not telling you, I mean, one explanation would be movement, correct? One explanation would be 2 shooters. I'm sorry?
I
Yes.
wasn't there when it
No. But one explanation of this data would be 2 shooters. One explanation, not the, but one.
Not the only one.
Yeah, not the only one, but it is a reasonable explanation, just like one shooter running up that way, correct?
Sure.
So one of the reasonable explanations is there are 2 people there, there are 2 guns there, one's a shotgun, one's an AR, and we now see that AR is being shot from way up here, correct?
I can't see that. It's somewhere along that line.
And that line goes a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen yards from the feed room, if you follow it straight up.
I don't know where they were within that line.
Could someone have been a lookout there? They went there to kill Paul, and that's the lookout. Maggie surprised them. They thought she was gone.
I have no idea.
Reasonable though, right? Right?
I feel like I wasn't there.
I know you weren't there, but none of us were there. We're trying to figure out what happened that night. And clearly, one reasonable explanation is 2 shooters. One explanation.
One.
Right, and a number of them. I'd like to offer this into evidence. Yeah, it's not to scale. Chief Prepared.
Talk to the court, I'll be told.
I'm sorry. Your Honor, I'm offering this into evidence.
Says the state.
No objection, Your Honor.
Go ahead and take a stand. you testified it was 80-something degrees, right?
84 degrees.
It's not 90-something degrees?
I had 84.
Beg your force indulgence, let me look at these exhibits for 1 second. Okay, let me show you defense exhibits 19 and 22. Are these the actual protractor measurements you did that?
Of the animal cage.
Okay, both of them are of the animal cage?
Yes.
Okay. And did you do the same measurements on the doghouse?
Yes.
What does that indicate?
You mean, what is this?
No, what is the angle based on that?
Can't really. $80-something.
Okay. You have in your notes, let me see what you have in your notes you recorded. And that's, where's your full report?
This is all the notes.
Yeah, I'm looking for the sketch though. Okay, where's the doghouse? What does the horizontal 96 degrees mean?
Not sure why that says 96.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure why it says 96 if I had 84.
In your crime scene notes?
That's right.
But you wrote down, your official report said 96 degrees.
My note said 84 degrees.
Or did you just, the notes were taken at the scene?
Yes.
Okay, beg the court's indulgence. Let me move on to a different area. Let me say this to you. Based on your calculations, both of those shots came well to the right, if you're facing the feed room, well to the right of where the feed room is, correct?
Thereabouts.
I'm sorry?
Thereabouts, yes.
Thereabouts?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to look for some concise, you're a criminalist. You would agree with me that they did not come from the feed room, or the
Right.
vicinity of the feed room, and they're literally yards away from the feed room, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to beat that horse anymore. So let's talk a little bit about footprints, okay?
Okay.
So I noticed in your report, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were unable to identify, either exclude or include, a number of different footprints in and around the feed room, bloody footprints, and other footprints, because of the quality of the photography. Is that correct?
I was able to attribute them to Paul's shoes.
I'm sorry?
I was able to attribute them to Paul's shoes, though.
Well, we'll talk about Paul's shoes in just a minute. But when you, what's the process to take a photograph of footwear or imprint that's recognized by a number of different agencies, including the FBI. What's that process?
Place a scale, preferably an L scale, around the impression and document it with the camera parallel to the surface so you get a straight-on shot. Put the camera in RAW settings so you capture all the data with that photograph.
So let me ask you, so the process is, first of all, you take a general photograph of the impression, right? It's
Yes.
Doesn't matter what angle, doesn't matter what the lighting is at that point, correct?
If you're just documenting
You're
that
just
it's there.
documenting. But when you go to take a photograph of a footprint for forensic analysis later on to compare it to a known shoe, you're supposed to do a couple things. One, you're supposed to have good lighting if you can get it, right?
Preferably.
Two, you're supposed to put a scale down next to it so that later on you can, because you need to understand how big or how small the foot is and the distance between the treads. So the scale's a little, like a little ruler, just a piece of a ruler that you put down next to it to get some idea what an inch looks like, what 2 inches look like. And that's really important, is it not?
It is, to make sure it's to scale.
Okay. And then you're supposed to do a photograph straight down on it with good lighting, so that you can you can understand what you're seeing is a straight on impression, correct?
That's right.
Now, was that done on any of the impressions that y'all analyzed?
No, we didn't recognize on scene.
I'm sorry?
We didn't recognize on scene that there was footwear.
You didn't recognize on scene there was what?
Footwear impressions in the room.
Well, that brings up another topic. There was what may have been a footwear impression on Maggie's calf, correct?
I couldn't say that was a footwear impression, just an impression,
Well, there was something on her leg that could have been a footwear impression, correct?
possibly.
Possibly. And again, they didn't put a scale, they didn't do any of this procedure, correct?
That's right.
And it was in dirt,
Yes,
or mud, one. And so, once her body was removed from the scene, that examination could never be done, correct?
that's right.
Matter of fact, none of the impressions could be examined after the next day at best, correct?
Not physically.
Right. We couldn't go back out and take new photographs.
Right.
So the procedures followed were not the procedures recommended by every agency and your agency, correct?
If I had realized that was footwear on scene, I would have documented it properly, yes.
Okay. But since it wasn't documented properly, we can't include or exclude, except for Paul, correct?
That's right.
Now, are you a certified footwear examiner?
Yes.
By who?
Well, within SLED, yes.
I'm sorry?
Within SLED.
Within SLED, but not peer-reviewed or
Oh, yes, I am peer reviewed.
by somebody at SLED?
Yes.
Okay. And your analysis is that one set of those footwear impressions is Paul facing the back of the feed room, right?
Right.
And yet we know in their bloody, so he's already been shot.
Right.
And we know the initial shot came buckshot, very small pattern, in his chest, and came out underneath his left arm. Matter of fact, there was wadding under his left arm, and buckshot went through the back window and embedded in the windowsill. You documented that, right?
Right.
And then I think some of it embedded in a tree back behind that window, correct?
I think, yes.
And he's facing backwards, bloody footprints. Has anyone discussed with you how he got faced away from where he was shot?
No?
Were the footprints smudged as if he was turning?
And there was blood dripping. He was stepping in the blood and leaving his own footwear impressions in the blood. I don't know that it was smeared necessarily.
Well, we also know that a second shot, literally his head exploded, his brain flew out, may have, we know there's hair and blood all over that door up high. There's actually hair and blood and pieces of his skull in the ceiling and around him. Assuming the first shot would not have been immediately fatal because it didn't hit any critical organs, he would have been alive for some period of time after that shotgun blast to the chest. But the second shot, as you've seen in the pictures, and you were there that night, wasn't his brain laying at his feet?
It was beside his left leg, yes.
I'm sorry?
It was beside his left leg, yes.
Yeah. And his feet are just, one of them is just inside the feed room and the other's not.
Yes.
And he's face down.
Right.
So you can't explain how he got shot in the front when he's at some point soon thereafter is facing backwards.
I can't say which way he was facing when he was actually shot. The second shot, he was right there at the door. I can tell you that.
So he got from facing the back door after he was shot, I mean the back window, to facing forward for the second shot. Is that right?
Right.
Has anyone from SLED briefed you on after you identified those footprints?
No.
They didn't ask for any explanation?
Not for me, no.
Okay, and you would agree that because of the way the scene was processed, that most of the footprints you were unable to do any comparison to because of the way the pictures were?
No, I was able to do a comparison with, and they were mostly Paul's shoes.
Other than those two?
There was one right inside the door. There was one further to the left where the door was. Then there were at least two by marker one.
And correct me if I'm wrong, at least one of those bloody footprints initially identified as Paul's turned out to be a police officer's, isn't that correct?
It wasn't initially identified as Paul's, no.
But there was a bloody footprint near his that turned out to be law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
In the feed room,
Right.
in blood. Is that preservation of the scene that your standards require?
Not exactly, no.
Not exactly. Should the police be walking through the scene?
No.
Do we know what other evidence they may have destroyed?
I have no idea.
That's right, we don't. Now, have you seen this photograph before? Can you identify it?
It's not one that we took.
But does it appear to be in the area you've been describing?
Close, yes. It's in the feed room.
So you don't know whose feet those are?
No.
Okay. Did you check other foot impressions in the feed room and exclude Paul?
No.
There were other bloody footprints or impressions in the feed room. Did you identify them as Paul's?
I thought I accounted for all the ones that we knew of.
Okay. Now, make sure this is not already in evidence, Your Honor. Can we look at defense exhibit number 2, and we need to cover the screens? So, we've talked about this previously just a moment ago. I'm going to put it up here so we can blow it up. Okay, do you recognize this photo?
Yes,
Is that the way you saw Maggie that night?
it is.
Now, how about zoom in on her calf, right there, yep. Now, somebody, even that night we see in notes, thinks that could be a footwear impression, or it could be something else, correct?
I couldn't determine what kind of impression it was. No.
Okay. But you would agree with me, there is something on the back of her leg that has some sort of pattern in it?
It is, yes.
Okay. Not naturally occurring pattern.
Right.
And this is the only photograph you received that night, or you received ever, of Maggie's calf, correct?
That's not the photo I used at all.
I'm sorry?
That's not the photograph I used at all for my footwear examination.
What photograph did you use?
$420.
420? You got it? Okay, put that one up, and then we'll see if you can identify it. Is that 420?
Yes.
Okay. We'd like to offer photograph 420 into evidence, Your Honor.
No objection, we just asked to see the photo before it's offered.
It's admitted.
Thank you. I don't have it. We'll get it. Do we have Holly, we got a hard copy of that? Thank you. We'll get it to you in just a minute. So, can you come down here for just a second, please? Yes. How about point to the jury where that impression is on her leg?
This whole area right here.
And it has, if you blow it up, you can see some regular lines as opposed to irregular, right?
Yes.
Which would indicate some, not natural, but when I say unnatural, man-made something caused that, correct?
There's a distinct pattern to it.
Okay. Now, why were you not able to get significant definition to compare it to a footwear?
I felt like I had enough definition, I just couldn't attribute it to any type of footwear.
Any type of footwear?
As far as any type of shoe, I wasn't able to attribute it to a specific type of shoe.
Okay, now, and you would agree with me, there's no scale.
Right.
There's no multiple pictures of this from different angles for the purpose of giving you the more definition so you can make a comparison, correct?
There's not.
So this was not done according to procedure.
I mean, I didn't know about this on scene.
Yeah, but as your photographers take pictures, aren't they, I mean, wouldn't it be good just to put down a scale, no matter what?
If I had seen that, we would have.
But, I mean,
Somebody had.
a lot of these photographs are taken without you present, correct?
No, I was there.
You were there for that photograph.
Yes.
And did you notice the mud on her leg?
No.
But as you look at it now, you agree that a better photograph taken under the procedures of SWED and the FBI and everybody else could have given you a better ability to match it to a piece of footwear, correct?
I don't know that a better photograph would have given me better results. I think I saw enough of it to know I wasn't going to be able to attribute it to a type of footwear.
Without a straight-on shot, without a scale, without all the things recommended.
I couldn't even say it was a footwear impression. I just called it an impression.
But based on that photograph,
Yes.
which is not a photograph done to compare footwear.
Not ideal, no.
Not ideal. It's not. The standards say that is not within the standards, correct?
Objection, argumentative.
Can you answer the question?
Go ahead.
You understand what the question is?
The question is, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You understand the question?
Yes.
What's the answer?
It would be better to take the photograph properly with a scale.
but you would concede this was not taken pursuant, and what you're saying is no one appreciated the fact that it was a footwear, or could be a footwear impression that night, so no one treated it like a piece of footwear.
Right.
But we know that same night they didn't treat any suspected footwear according to procedures, correct? No scale, no multiple pictures, no 90-degree, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and take a stand. So, let me see if I can find these pictures. Did you participate in processing Alex's T-shirt, shorts, and shoes?
The T-shirt and shorts, yes.
Okay, and what did you do with that?
As far as the LCV,
Yeah,
we documented the entire process from start to finish, starting with the packaging that the shirt was in. Took the shirt out of the package, photographed it front and back, inside and out, to show how it was before we did anything to it. Then we hung it up and applied the LCV, which is a liquid spray. Any stains that we saw after using the spray, we documented those with photographs without scale, and then we photoed with the scale. Then we laid the shirt flat and photographed each of those stains on the shirt. It was stains A through H on the front and stains I and J on the back. We labeled those A through H, I and J with scale and photographed each one of them before we did anything else.
let me show you a couple photographs. Any objection?
Okay.
Can you identify these, please? Doug, 19A, please.
Yes. Yes.
Is that the shirt as you saw it that night?
Not that night, no.
When did you see it?
When we processed it at the lab.
Okay. So you would agree with me that this shirt has, it doesn't look like it just came back from the laundry. It's got smudges down here and generally stains here and there, correct?
Not completely clean,
Yeah, okay, well, that's it. It's not completely clean, correct?
right?
And then I'd offer that into evidence, Your Honor.
Which one?
Tell me what this is, please.
After we had sprayed the shirt with LCV, we laid it in a grid to account for where on the shirt each stain was.
And there seems to be something on the bottom that looks like a handprint, does it not?
I didn't see a handprint. That was on the body cam footage where he was wiping his face with the shirt right there.
Offer this into evidence. Can I have that 19, I'm sorry, let me see what it is. What does it say at the bottom? KNM 3282. Okay, and we agree that you did this with LCV, right? That's what they call a presumptive test. It could be human blood. It could also be animal blood. It also could be detergent.
Objection, Your Honor. Could we ask one question at a time?
I'm trying to summary, but I'll do it.
Okay.
Could it be something other than something other than human blood?
It doesn't determine whether it's human or not.
Right. So it could be animal blood.
It's possible.
Could be detergent. Detergent oftentimes.
Bleach maybe.
Bleach, okay. What about organic matter like plants?
The only two I know of really is bleach and rust. That
Rust?
Right.
Okay. But there are other things that will, and that's why you do a confirmatory test,
right.
and that's done with hemotrace.
I'm not sure how. I don't do that part. So.
Well, do you know what the results were when they treated it with hemotrace?
I'm not sure. No.
You never saw the report?
No.
No human blood found? Hey, now, did you test the shorts?
We did the same procedure with the shorts.
And there some presumptive, some indication that it was human blood or something else, correct?
Yes.
Do you know whether they ran a confirmatory test on that?
I'm not. I assume they did. I'm not sure.
Well, but you don't know.
Right.
Do you know did you use LCV on the shorts or did you use something else?
We used LCV.
Okay. Did you do the shoes?
No.
Beg the court's indulgence for one moment, please. Maybe almost through. Beg the court's indulgence for trying to make sure when. Let me put it up on the screen, and I'll give you a copy of it, if she can identify it, okay? And I think she can. Go ahead and put it up. Go ahead and put it up. It's number 217. Can you see it?
Yes.
Not very bright. Is that a picture that you took?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we'd offer this picture into evidence.
No objection.
Okay, could you step down here, please? So the angle, this is the doghouse. What's the angle on this?
Approximately 84, 83.
Yes. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we all were on the same sheet, even though you wrote down 96 in your report, correct?
In my diagram of that, yes.
Right. The official report, the official.
My official notes say 84 degrees.
But I'm talking about what we got. But, we got in your notes also, but in your printed document, you said 96.
On the diagram, yes.
Yes. But it's only 84.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. So, and again, maybe I need to check you on this, but the angle from the doghouse, you seem to indicate is going still to the right of the dog kennels. But, and let me check it out, just one second. I'm not sure you got this right.
Any further questions?
Your Honor, give me 2 seconds here.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand for a moment. Okay. Okay, we'll proceed.
Thank you, no further questions.
Direct.
All right, Agent Burley, let's see. Right, we saw this big diagram and then some other diagrams that you prepared. What was the purpose of you preparing all these diagrams?
Show for that one where the evidence was in relation to each other, where the victims were in relation to the evidence, where the kennels were and the workshop overhang, measurements, all the other diagrams, the doghouse, animal cage, were to show more measurements of where the bullet defects were.
Would those be done for reconstructive purposes?
That's right.
And was that really done here on this case?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And in this diagram, what? Defense Exhibit 29, we see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And what were those? What did those indicate?
Those were 300 blackout cartridge cases.
And this is not to scale, is that right?
No, not at all.
So what does that mean if something's not to scale?
It's not like an inch on there is not an inch in real life. It's just an approximation of where everything was in relation to each other.
So it may not correspond to the actual dimensions of things on the scene.
Right.
Now, are you aware that there was stippling on the victim, Maggie Murdaugh?
Yes.
And what does it mean if there's stippling on a victim?
It's a close gunshot. She was shot close range.
And the defense asked you about some different possibilities here. It's possible that people can move around,
Yes.
and it's also possible that one person could have had 2 guns.
That's right.
All right. Then we talked a lot about footprints. Let's see here. In the feed room, was there a bunch of bloody footprints?
There were.
Other things have kind of gotten disarray over here, if I could have a moment. Show you State's Exhibit 35. Are those the bloody footprints in the feed room?
2 of them, yes.
And those were determined to be the footprints of Paul Murdaugh?
Right.
And now, just to be clear, I mean, in this picture, we aren't seeing like 5 sets of other bloody footprints.
No.
So, you talked about some other footprints in the feed room. Could you kind of elaborate on that?
Closer to the door, there was one, and also closer to the door, the actual physical door, there was one, a partial impression.
Okay. And did you determine who those footprints belong to?
Those were consistent with Paul's shoes.
And is it possible that after SLED took some crime scene photos and moved Paul's body, that someone could have come in along later and stepped in?
Your Honor,
Objection is overruled.
Is it possible that if there were more prints in there, that those could have been after SLED's pictures were taken?
speculation.
Objection is overruled.
I suppose so, yes.
And we also talked about footprints in States 194 and 195. Why couldn't you do anything with those footprints?
I was not made aware of those 4 impressions until June 15th, when I saw one of those photographs.
So you didn't take any of these pictures while you were out there at the scene?
No, it was on the other side of the workshop.
And we have no way to know when these footprints occurred?
Right.
Now, the defense showed us a picture of that dirt on the back of Maggie Murdaugh's leg. Do we even know if that's a shoe print?
No.
Yeah, taken by her.
As long as they were taken by her.
Agent Farley, if you could please take a look at States Exhibit 70 and 71. Could you tell us what those are pictures of?
These are pictures of the front of the ATV that was parked near Maggie's body.
Your Honor, the state removed 70 and 71 into evidence.
Okay.
Admitted without objection.
So if we look here at Defense Exhibit 9, can you point out where the ATV was there the night of the murders?
That photo was taken on July 16th.
But where were the photos or the ATVs on the night of the ATV on the night of the murders?
Under that overhang behind the doghouse.
This time I'm going to publish States Exhibit 70. where was Maggie Murdaugh's body in relation to this ATV?
Would be toward the right of the ATV.
So it was kind of in front of the ATV?
Yeah.
And did you observe any kind of biological matter on that ATV?
Yes.
In State's Exhibit 71, could you kind of point out or describe for the jury where you can see spots of biological matter?
Do you want me to step down?
Your Honor, may she step down?
Suggestion, Your Honor, unless she's going to indicate, it appears to be biological matter. Did she test, was it tested?
I have to hear the question before I can hear an objection.
Go ahead.
Agent Forley, if you could please point out for the jury where it would appear to be biological matter or tissue on that ATV.
Object to the question. I object to the response because it was never tested. It appears, and it could be deer blood, it could be a number of different things. This calls for speculation.
Objection is overruled.
So these areas right here, a little there. I believe there was a little bit on this tire also.
Thank you, Agent Forley. That's all for this witness, Your Honor.
Further cross-examination.
Well, you would concede, I mean, if you saw that, but you not, I mean, it looked like blood.
Yes.
Did you test it for blood?
No.
Gather, swab something so you could take it back to the lab and see if it was Maggie's blood, Paul's blood, deer blood? I mean, they hunt in those ATVs, right?
I have no idea what they do in them.
You don't know if they hunt using ATVs? Really? Is that one of the things you're aware that's done with those?
I am now, yes.
Okay. But the night you saw that blood, you didn't take a swab of it, or whatever you thought was blood, didn't swab it?
No, it didn't.
As a matter of fact, there's a pool of water around Paul. Did anyone ask you to take a sample of that?
No.
Determine whether or not there was human blood in it?
No.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at your shoe report. You specifically say on a number of these that the photograph is inadequate to do a comparison, right?
I was able to, my result was, it was adequate enough to determine outsole design. I couldn't.
I'm sorry, adequate to do what?
To determine the outsole design of the impression. I wouldn't have been able to identify it.
Okay, on Paul's, the ones you've already said he was facing backwards, did you say that you had partials and at one point you didn't know which way the foot was facing? Did you say that?
I'm not sure.
Did you come to any conclusions about any of the other, I mean, did you match his footwear to any of the other bloody impressions in that feed room?
Yes.
Which ones?
The one by the door, like right in front of the
What's
doorway.
the number of that?
.105.1.
I'm sorry?
Item 105.1. It's facing the doorway.
It says that the outsole design is consistent with item 103, Paul's shoe. So you also say that the way you got scale was, and some of these were evidence markers, and then you figured out how big the evidence marker was, and that's what you used to get to scale.
The marker and the shot shells at markers 9 and 10 were measured. Yes.
And that's not the best way to do it, is it?
No.
And in terms of the sketch we had, you do a pretty crude sketch, but have you ever been asked by SWED or the Attorney General's office to do this trajectory analysis that I asked you to do today?
No, but I don't necessarily do crime scene reconstruction.
Who does?
I'm not sure. We don't necessarily do that ourselves. We process crime scenes and document it, but we don't do reconstructions.
But no one has consulted with you about a reconstruction. No one's come from SWED and said, let's go over these angles, or, you know, how did you conduct this, or nobody's asked you.
No.
Have you ever had a conversation with anybody from the Attorney General's office about this?
No, I don't think so.
Did they ever talk to you about the video we showed a little while ago, of the process you all used to try to make a 3D?
Not with me, with others who rendered the Pharaoh software, the video.
They talked to people that did the Pharaoh?
Yeah, I believe so.
What?
I believe so, yes.
Do you know who that was and who they talked to?
No,
Do you know when that was?
not really, no.
So they'd have a 3D image of the crime scene, and you don't know when they got it or what they did with it. They never talked to you about it.
No.
Thank the court's indulgence.
Step down. We go to the jury room for a 10-minute recess. Please do not discuss the case. note from the jury. Your Honor, will you please inform the audience that the identity of each is to remain anonymous? That's my first. Secondly, please remove or move the cart in front of the large TV. Okay, the audience is reminded, as requested by the jury, and we've removed the cart, and you may bring the jury.
The jury is present.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, I have addressed your concerns. And you may call your next witness.
We call Senior Special Agent Jeff Croft.
Raise your right hand, left hand on the Bible. Do you affirm the testimony about to give during this trial shall be the truth so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you see me in the witness stand? State your name again for the record. Spell your last name.
Jeff Croft, C-R-O-F-T.
Senior Special Agent Croft, how you doing today?
Doing well, sir.
So your beard's about as gray as mine is, isn't it?
Sir?
Your beard's about as gray as mine is.
Yes, sir.
Is that how you get to be a Senior Special Agent?
I don't think so.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where are you from? And then tell us a little bit about your career in law enforcement.
I grew up in Baltimore County. I started my law enforcement career in the early 2000s as a reserve deputy with the Baltimore County Sheriff's Office. I got hired full-time, started on the road. I did road patrol. I then went to investigative services, investigations, where I worked narcotics and violent crime. In 2012, I transferred over to SLED, where I worked in the Low Country region in investigative services. I was assigned to this area for investigative purposes, working homicides, violent crime, financial cases, all sorts of stuff.
Okay. And how long have you been with SLED?
I'm going on 12 years.
Where were you assigned back on June 7th, 2021?
I was assigned to the Low Country region here in Colleton County.
And were you summoned, called out to respond to the reports of the two deaths at 4147 Moselle Road?
Yes, sir, I was.
About what time did you get a call?
I got called out on actually June the 8th, the morning of June the 8th, about 5:30 that morning.
Okay. And where did you go from there?
I was en route to the scene. I was rerouted to our field office here in Walterboro and given instructions from there.
Okay. And having been given those instructions, what'd you go do to help the investigation? What's the first thing you did?
I located and interviewed Rogan Gibson.
All right. And did you have a conversation with Rogan Gibson?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you ask Rogan Gibson about whether or not he had phone communications with Paul Murdaugh the evening before?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you ask him whether he had phone communications with Alex Murdaugh the night before?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you ask him whether or not he had communications with Maggie Murdaugh the night before?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you ask to see Rogan's cell phone?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did he allow you to take screenshots of some of the records on his cell phone?
Yes, sir, he did.
All right, I'm going to show you very quickly what's been marked as exhibits 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 171, and 172. And just generally tell me if you recognize those particular exhibits.
Yes, sir, these are the snapshots which I took of Rogan Gibson's phone.
Okay. Evidence exhibits, states exhibits 165 through 172, I believe, without objection.
They are admitted.
All right. If I could get the Elmo up, please. Let's see how that works. Not great, is it? All right, I'm going to put up on the screen States Exhibit 165. And is this one of those images that we were just talking about from Rogan Gibson?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, and whose hand is that holding it up? Do you know?
That is Rogan Gibson holding the phone for me to take the picture.
All right, and was he manipulating the phone for you and then showing you when he found things and then you taking a picture of it with your phone?
Yes, sir, he was.
Okay. And does this reflect a incoming call from Paul at a particular time?
Yes, sir, it does.
What time does it reflect that call?
At 8:40 p.m.
All right, and this is going to be on June 7th, 2021?
That is correct, sir.
And how long does it reflect that call was?
Approximately 4 minutes.
4 minutes. All right, let's look at the next one. I'm going to publish what's been marked as States Exhibit 166, and is this another screenshot that Rogan showed you from his communications with Paul Murdaugh that night?
Yes, sir, it is.
And does it show an incoming call from Paul Murdaugh to Rogan Gibson?
Yes, sir, it does.
And what time is that call?
8:44 p.m.
8:44 p.m.?
That is correct.
I'm going to show you next what's been marked as Exhibit 167 to your testimony. And is this another screenshot that was showed to you by Rogan Gibson from his communications with Paul Murdaugh?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And were these some texts between the two of them?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And does it reflect a text from Rogan to Paul on there?
Yes, sir, it does at
What time is that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
8:49 p.m.
8:49 p.m., is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you read that text to the jury, please?
See if you can get a good picture of it. Marion wants to send it to a girl we know that's a vet. Tell him to sit and stay, and he shouldn't move around too much.
All right. Does it reflect any response from Paul?
It does not.
All right. What is the next communication on this particular exhibit?
It's a little got glare on it. I can't. It looks like 9:58 p.m.
All right, I'm going to bring the exhibit up because I know our Elmo's not working great. I'm still working on that, but let me actually have you look at it. So we said there was that communication to Paul from Rogan, and then you said there was no response. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And then the next thing is Rogan sends a text. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
What time is that text?
9:58 p.m.
9:58. What does he say?
Yo.
Yo.
Y-O, yo.
I'm going to put up on the screen State's Exhibit 168. Can you see that all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And does this reflect a number of outgoing calls from Rogan to Paul, trying to get him to answer?
Yes, sir, it does.
Can you tell the jury the times, starting at the bottom, that he's trying to call Paul Murdaugh without an answer?
At 9:10 p.m., there's a 2-second outgoing call. At 9:29 p.m., there's a 1-second outgoing call. At 9:42 p.m., there's a 1-second outgoing call. And at 9:57 p.m., there's a 4-second outgoing call.
All right. I'm going to put up on the screen State's Exhibit 169. And does this also reflect an outgoing call from Rogan to Paul that is unanswered?
Yes, sir, it does.
And what time was that?
10:08 p.m.
All right, we're now looking at State's Exhibit 170. I'm going to bring it up, tell you real quick. Who does this reflect communications with, between Rogan, Gibson, and who?
Mrs. Maggie Murdaugh.
All right, let me go publish this real quick. So it's from who?
Miss Maggie Murdaugh.
All right. And Rogan sends her a text, is that correct?
Yes, sir, he does.
What time does he send that text?
9:34 p.m.
And what does he say?
Tell Paul to call me.
I'm going to publish what's been marked as State's Exhibit 171. Can you see that all right?
Yes, sir, I can see the times. I can't see the top of it.
Okay.
Okay, I can see
All
it.
right. And who are these communications from on Rogan Gibson's phone?
Mr. Alex Murdaugh.
The defendant?
That's correct.
All right. And were there missed calls from Alex Murdaugh?
Yes, sir, it is.
And can you tell the jury what times those were?
At 10:21 p.m. and at 10:24 p.m.
And then finally, State's Exhibit 172. Are these additional missed calls on Rogan's phone? Or outgoing, missed calls?
Yes, sir, it's missed calls.
And who are they from?
I can't see the top from that display.
Sorry?
Mr. Alex Murdaugh.
Okay. And what time were these missed calls from Alex Murdaugh to Rogan Gibson?
10:25 and 10:30 p.m.
Did you ultimately interviewed Rogan Gibson, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
Without going into what he said, he told you what his communications and what he did that night and all the rest of it, is that right?
Yes, sir, he did.
Was there anybody with you when you interviewed him?
Yes, sir, it was.
And who was that?
Special Agent Katie McAllister.
Katie McAllister?
Yes, sir.
Did you take a buccal swab from Rogan Gibson?
Yes, sir, I did.
And tell the jury just really quickly, what is a buccal swab?
Buccal swab is used to get a DNA standard or a known standard that can be used by our lab to compare to potential other evidence. It's a cotton swab which we use on the inside of the cheek, very non-intrusive. Once we get it, we seal it. That wood evidence tape is transported to our lab for our lab's use.
Okay. 1 second. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 154 and see if you recognize this document.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, tell me what that is. Tell the jury what that is, please.
It's a chain of custody form that we used when we secured the buccal swab from, or buccal swab from Rogan Gibson.
All right. Put that up on the screen. And so right there, is that where it says what it is?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And whose signature is that right there?
That is myself.
And then whose name and signature is that right there?
Melinda Worley, Special Agent Melinda Worley.
Okay. All right. After you had that interview with Rogan Gibson, what's the next thing you did in the case to assist the investigation?
I went back to the scene where I briefed Senior Special Agent David Owen and the others that was assisting with the investigation. I was asked to go to the residence, the Murdaugh residence, which was down from the kennels.
All right. And what was going to be your goal in going to the residence?
I went to the residence to secure any firearms or ammunition, spent shell casings of that nature that would be potentially compared to or similar in nature to what was at the scene.
Did you go by yourself? Did you go with the team?
It was myself, Anthony Sampson, and Katie McAllister, both which are special agents.
What was your particular role to this team? What was going to be your main job and why you were picked to be on this team to go in the house looking for firearms evidence?
I have some knowledge of firearms and ammunition, and my main duty was to attempt to locate any firearms that were capable of firing similar ammunition that was at the actual crime scene, any spent shell casings that would be similar in nature that could potentially be tested back to a firearm if one was located or tested in comparison to the casings which were at the scene.
Had you been advised by other investigators what types of weapons or what ammunition had been used to murder Maggie and Paul?
Yes, sir, I did.
And can you tell the jury what you had been advised?
I'd been advised that it was a 12-gauge shotgun used, capable of shooting 3-inch Magnum. I was also advised that there was a 300 blackout rifle, or excuse me, it's an AR rifle chambered for 300 blackout.
12 gauge and 300 blackout.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Bear with me one second. All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 160 to your testimony and see if you recognize that particular disc.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, tell me what that disc is.
It's a disc of my body-worn camera recording from the day of the house entry.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 159. See if you recognize this particular exhibit.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, and what's on that?
This is, again, a recording of my body-worn camera for the house entrance.
All right, and why are there two recordings of body cams? Why do we have two instead of just one?
After the initial entrance to the residence and some initial items being secured, I stepped outside to speak to the investigative team, which was up at the kennels, and then I walked back in the house. While I was outside, I noticed some items on the ground that needed to be secured. So I walked back in the house, got Anthony Sampson, Special Agent Anthony Sampson, to accompany me outside to collect those items.
And what were those items? I'm going ahead and let's jump ahead. What were those items you ultimately collected out there?
It was 300 blackout shell casings, which appeared to be weathered at the bottom of the stoop, entered to the entrance of the what I call the gun room. and in the flower bed on each side.
All right, and when you say cases or casings, tell the jury what we're talking about. What is a case or a casing as opposed to the whole cartridge? Can you explain that to the jury, please?
Cartridge case is what's ejected from the weapon once it's fired. It houses the powder, the primer, the bullet on the end, which is the projectile which leaves the end of the barrel. It's basically just the housing that holds the firing mechanism in a shell or in a casing.
And in a semi-automatic weapon, once the bullet is fired, what happens to the casing?
In a semi-automatic weapon, it is ejected.
It's ejected?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if nobody picks it up, it stays right there on the ground, doesn't it?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Your Honor, this time I'd move States Exhibit 159 and 160 into evidence.
We don't object to the video of either one, and there's one longer video that's in the House, I don't know if 159 and 160, that we would object to the audio portion being played. And
Your Honor, I have no problem with that. I'm going to play that particular video with the audio down because there is discussion with other witnesses who will testify who are in the House, and so that's acceptable to the state for that particular exhibit.
Mr. Griffin?
yeah, that's acceptable,
All right.
as long as there's no hearsay from the witnesses.
You said the audio is down, so it's admitted under those conditions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bear with me 1 second. For the record, 159 is the exhibit. We'll play with the audio down. Thank you. Can I get the input changed, please, to the laptop? All right, so Special Agent Croft, since we don't have audio on this, we might just kind of narrate it for the jury while things are happening, okay?
All right, sir.
All right, let's do that. All right, what's happening right now?
We are walking up to the side door of the residence, which enters the gun room.
And just real quick, we see that side stoop right there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What was found right there, if anything, by that stoop?
300 blackout casings.
Is that what you just were talking about?
Yes, sir, it is.
Right there, huh?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Who is that individual right there, do you know?
Attorney Lee Cope,
Who's talking to him?
Special Agent McAllister.
I'm gonna move it forward, going in the house a little bit. Where are we now?
We are inside of the residence at 4147 Moselle Road in the gun room.
Who are you shaking hands with right now?
That would be Attorney Mark Ball,
All right, and who's getting their hands shook right now?
Mr. Attorney Ronnie Crosby.
Now, you mentioned Lee Cope and Mark Ball and Ronnie Crosby. Who are those individuals? What, if anything, is their relationship with Alex Murdaugh?
They are law partners were law partners with Mr. Alex Murdaugh at PED.
Do you know what Alex Murdaugh did for a living?
He was a trial lawyer, and he also was a prosecutor for the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office under Solicitor Duffy Stone.
And what does a prosecutor do?
They try cases for the state.
Criminal cases.
Criminal cases for the state, yes, sir.
That's what he did.
That is correct.
fast forward just a little bit. What's that sort of in the center of the screen right there?
That's a gun cabinet or gun shelf.
What's going on right now?
Special Agent McAllister is explaining why we are there, kind of what we're looking for, and gaining consent to search that area.
Was consent ultimately obtained to search?
Yes, sir, it was.
Let me back it up real quick. All right, at this point, are y'all having a conversation with people who were there? I'm not trying to get into the conversation, just were you having a conversation?
Yes, sir, we were.
All right, and who are the two individuals you're talking to, or three individuals you're talking to right there?
Ronnie Crosby on the right, Mark Ball in the center, and Mr. Lee Cope on the left-hand side. Agent McAllister standing with her back turned.
At some point, did Mark Ball point to anything?
Yes, sir, he did.
And what did he point to?
A .300 blackout rifle, which was sitting in the gun wall.
Did Ronnie Crosby point to it? Let me back up.
Yes, sir.
All right. Then whose body cam are we looking at right now?
That would be mine.
Where are you going right now?
I'm walking over to the gun wall or gun cabinet in order to get a better picture of what Mr. Ball is pointing to.
Is that it right there in the middle?
That is it, yes, sir.
All right. Right, what is Mark Ball pointing to right now?
He's pointing to the numbers which are displayed on the bottom of the magazine.
All right. And is this the blackout we're talking about?
That is correct.
All right. Did you look at that particular magazine?
Yes, sir, I did.
What, if anything, did you notice about that magazine?
The magazine stamped with 223.
All right. Is 223 the same ammunition as 300 blackout?
It's same in length. 223 magazine is capable of housing a 300 blackout round.
Well, explain to me a little bit about 223, and which is a type of ammunition, and blackout. What are the differences and what are the similarities between those two rounds?
They both can be fired from the AR frame. It's the 300 blackout is actually approximately a 30 millimeter projectile, a little bit larger bullet than the 223. Has a little more kinetic energy, and a little more stopping power than the 223. The 223 is a faster bullet, a little flatter trajectory. It does not have the stopping power that the 300 has. But because the 300 is a larger bullet, and trying to use it in an AR frame, it's neck down. So you don't have quite as much speed coming out, or velocity coming out of the barrel than you would with a 223.
What is it you just said, though? A 300 blackout has more of?
Stopping power than the 223.
And stopping power, what does that mean? What is stopping power?
It has more impact than the 223 round would have.
Impact. Okay. All right. What else are you looking for right now as you look through the other firearms on that particular gun rack?
Any additional rifles capable of shooting the 300 blackout, and also the any 12-gauge shotguns which are capable of shooting 3-inch Magnum.
Let me ask you this, did you find any other weapons that could shoot 300 blackout?
No, sir, we did not.
Did you ever find any other weapons on Alex Murdaugh's property that could shoot 300 blackouts other than that one that was in the gun rack?
No, sir, we did not.
We're going to talk more about this in a minute, but did you find some 12 gauges?
Yes, sir, we did.
All right, what are we looking at right here?
That's to the right of the gun wall or gun cabinet. It's various ammunitions for different type of weapons, shell casings, just parts for the gun wall.
Okay. And you're having a conversation with who right there?
Attorney Mark Ball.
As a result of that conversation, was Mark Ball pointing to things?
Yes, sir, he was.
Specific things?
Yes, sir, he was.
Did you ultimately come back and collect some of those things?
Yes, sir, I did.
Fast forward to about 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Keep this thing moving. Right there. What's that right there?
That is an empty box with the label S&B 300 BLK.
All right. Did you ultimately collect that box?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 213 and see if you recognize that item.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. Stand by for me real quick. This time we move State's Exhibit 213 into evidence, I believe, without objection.
No objection.
Okay. I'm going to show it to you again. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Does that box reflect the grain weight of the bullets of that ammunition that were inside of it?
Yes, sir, it does.
And what is that?
147 grains.
All right. And tell the jury, what is 147 grains, or just grains in general, when it comes to a bullet? What does that mean?
It's the weight of the projectile.
And it's possible to have certain ammunition of the same caliber, but it has different weights. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
All right. And this blackout is 147 grains, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Sorry. Can we, no, that's fine. I'll show it later. Let's go ahead and do that. Can we switch the input just real quick? I'm going to switch it right back. I just want to show this to the jury, please. All right. Everybody can see that? Maybe if I did it this way. All right. And that's the empty box you found in the gun room?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And right there, is that the grains that you were talking about?
Yes, sir, it
Step
is.
down if you need to, see what I'm pointing at.
I can see you, sir.
All right. Can you read that right there?
Yes, sir, I can.
And what does it say?
Cellular and looks like Bellet,
All right. And in shorthand, when people are talking about ammunition, how do they say that?
S&B.
S&B. And then on the back right here, can you read that?
Yes, sir, I can.
And what does that say?
300 AAC blackout.
All right, if we go back to video, please. For the record, I'm fast forwarding a little bit, just to keep us going. At this particular time, as it relates to the shotguns, are you looking to collect every single shotgun that's on that rack or only specific shotguns?
Only specific shotguns.
And what specific gauge of shotgun were you looking to collect?
12 gauge.
And why only 12 gauge?
That was the shell casings that was located at the crime scene.
Who's that individual standing in the center of the screen?
That would be Mr. John Marvin Murdaugh.
Now, you mentioned attorneys Lee Cope, Mark Ball, and Ronnie Crosby were in that room as well. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
And Mr. John Marvin Murdaugh, is that correct?
That is correct, yes,
And
sir.
what's his relation to the defendant?
He is the brother.
Was that everyone that was kind of there, or was there another attorney as well that was present?
There was an additional attorney that walked in the room early in the recording,
And who was that?
Chris Wilson.
Chris Wilson. Just generally, what are you doing right here?
Just getting an overall of where things were at when we went into the room before anything was actually moved.
saw you doing something with your hands. What are you doing right there?
I'm putting latex gloves on my hands.
What is it you're about to do?
I'm going to start collecting or securing those firearms.
Okay. What is that in your hand right there?
That is a 300 or an AR-15 chambered to 300 blackout.
What is that in your hand right there? I kind of fast forwarded it.
That was the magazine which I removed from the 300.
What ammunition was in that magazine?
S&B, 147 grain,
300 blackout?
300 blackout.
See another item, item 33, please. Right. I called it item 33 because that's the sled item, but actually it's been marked as State's Exhibit 88. I'm going to have you take a look at that and see if you recognize that. You go ahead and pull it out. Just make sure not to point it at the jury. And if you could also make sure that it is not in a firing state, please, sir.
It is safe.
All right. And what is that item right there?
This is the 300 blackout rifle which I secured from the gun wall.
All right. Let me see it. Your Honor, at this time we would move State's Exhibit 84 into evidence.
Your Honor, I object on relevancy grounds. There's no evidence that this gun was the gun. I mean, it's just not relevant. It was found in the house. It ain't the gun.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hold on that gun for me, please, Special Agent Croft. Let's see what else is in this box. I'm going to show you the other part of State's Exhibit 88, and that's marked actually as State's Exhibit 210. What's that?
This would be the magazine which I removed from this rifle on the video and the ammunition which it contained.
All right. And what kind of ammunition is that?
It's head stamp S&B 300 blackout.
All right. And do you know the specific brand and make and caliber of ammunition that was used to kill Maggie Murdaugh?
The head stamps on the shell casings at the crime scene was S&B 300 blackout.
Same thing?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about this firearm. What is this thing on the top here?
That is a, I call it an optic, but it's actually a thermal scope, which can be used for shooting in the dark.
Okay. And this particular weapon, is this a semi-automatic weapon?
Yes, sir, it is.
And what does that mean? Can you tell the jury what that means?
Each press of the trigger, it will fire and eject the spent cartridge.
And where are the cartridges going to eject when this weapon is fired?
It would eject from the right-hand side, right here.
All right. So if it's being fired, they're coming out this way, is that correct?
To the right and generally back. Excuse me.
All right. These are the rounds you're talking about right here?
Yes, sir, it is.
Those are the S&B 300s?
Yes, sir, they are.
And this is that magazine that said 223 on it that you were talking about, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you return to the video, please, ma'am? All right, what's that you got in your arm now?
That is a 12-gauge Browning.
All right. Just a hair. All right, and so that's the Browning you collected, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, I'm gonna bring you to item 31 here real quick. Before you open it, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna get this blackout rifle out of the way. That's gonna block you. That's been using the sled item number, but that's State's Exhibit 90. Is that correct?
Chin this on.
I got you. Right there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Could you open that up and tell me what's in that if you recognize it, please?
That would be the Browning which I secured from the gun room.
All right, can you, is it in an unfired condition? Can you show that to the jury, please?
It's in a safe condition, breech open.
All right, and this is chambered in what gauge?
12 gauge.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, we would move State's Exhibit 80 into evidence.
Relevancy, that unless they have evidence tying it to the murders, I mean, there are a lot of guns that were seized, Your Honor.
Objections overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. My apologies.
Your Honor, I just want to add Rule 403 grounds for my objection to this gun and all the other guns they plan to introduce.
May proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, let's return to the video. Yeah, video, we're good. As you were looking through these various shotguns and picking some up and putting them back and all the rest of it, what are you looking for in making that determination, the ones you could take and the ones that you're putting back?
That it was chambered in 12 gauge.
Another gun on the table. You recognize that particular gun?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. And what about the particular condition of that gun did you notice, if anything?
That is a 12 gauge pump and the breech is open. Inside of the chamber is a shotgun shell that's ready to be chambered into the, to be fired.
And I've paused it at 20 minutes and 17 seconds. What do we see right there?
That is a 12 gauge shotgun shell that's ready to be chambered. Once you slide the pump action forward, it would be chambered into the chamber and ready to fire.
All right, thank you. And Your Honor, just very quickly for the record, with that Browning shotgun, I believe I referred to it as State's Exhibit 80. It's actually State's Exhibit 90, which I believe was admitted over objection. All right, let's go to 32, please. Show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 91. You could just take a look at it before you pull it out and tell me if you recognize what that is.
Yes, sir, I do.
And what is that?
That is a Benelli 12 gauge.
Thank you. Let me close that back up real quick. I'm just going to leave that there for a second. All right. one step ahead of ourselves, so let's do this one. This is State's Exhibit 87. Let's try this one. Can we do this without knocking everything over?
I think so.
All right, let's try to take a look, just real quick, don't show it to the jury, and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, tell me what that is.
That is the pump shotgun which I secured from the gun wall, which is depicted in the video.
This is the one that's on the screen right now?
Yes, sir, it is.
For the record, this is State's Exhibit 89. Let's go ahead and take a look and see if you recognize that. That's the gun we were just talking about?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, Your Honor, this time I'd move State's Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Your Honor, objecting on relevance, 403. There's no evidence linking these guns to the crime, and which is cumulative.
Did you want to respond to the speaking objection?
Yes, sir, I do want to respond to the speaking objection. It is very important to show the extensiveness of the investigation that was done, particularly as it goes to firearms, and there were multiple guns that were tested, and there will be an analysis list here later to show how those guns were tested and what the results of those. So admitting these guns into evidence to show the extent of what was tested is very relevant, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Your Honor. All right, let's go ahead and show the jury this one if we can, please. Is it not in fireable condition?
Breech is open and it's not in fireable condition.
All right. And when you first got this particular, or took this weapon off the wall, what was different about its condition that we talked about?
It had a round that was here ready to be chambered once the full grip is pushed forward.
All right, let me see it just real quick. So, is this a semi-automatic type shotgun or a pump shotgun?
It's a pump shotgun.
All right, and when a shell is fired and the mechanism is used, what happens to the spent shell case?
When you bring the forearm back, the shell case is ejected similar to a thermometer.
Okay. And which way would it go out of this particular firearm?
It would go to the right.
As an example. Go to the right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just pointed out a court reporter, sorry. All right, this item was found within that weapon, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell me what that is.
It's a 12 gauge, 3.5 inch shell, 2 1/4, number 7.9.
Is that a turkey load?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, let's close this box up. Help me out if you would, real quick. You recall what y'all are doing right now?
We are securing a Benelli shotgun.
All right. So we just did States 89. Now let's do states. Can you tell me the number on the bottom of that one?
91.
91. All right, just real quick, if you can just take a look without showing it to the jury and see if you recognize that.
Yes, sir, I do.
And tell me what that is, please.
That is the Benelli shotgun which I secured. It's depicted in the video.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, we would move states 91 into evidence.
Yes, Your Honor. Relevance for.
All right. Let's go ahead and again, if you can, show that to the jury, please. All right. Thank you very much. Let's put it back. Point at me, that's all right. All right. I'm going to show you what's inside this particular exhibit and see if you recognize those items, please.
Yes, sir.
All right. And what are those items?
Those are two 12-gauge shells which were loaded in the Benelli at the time we secured it.
What, if anything, can you tell me about the type of shells those are?
Head stamp is Winchester 12-gauge, long beard, so 3-inch, number 4. And the head stamp on the red one is a Federal 12-gauge, 7 2.5 ounce. It's 3.5-inch Federal premium shell.
Different types of ammunition, even different sizes, is that correct?
That is correct.
One is a Winchester and one's a Federal, is that correct?
That is correct.
Let's close this box if you could. All right, back to the video. We're picking up at 21:58. At this point on that gun rack, did you observe any other 12 gauges?
No, sir.
Who you having a conversation with right there?
Attorney Mark Ball.
Was he pointing in that box?
Yes, sir, he is.
Was he pointing about what y'all were talking about?
Yes, sir, he is.
For the record, I'm fast forwarding a little bit. We're going to talk more about this, but after collecting these various firearms, did you and the other agents ultimately collect both spent rounds as well as unfired rounds in the property and at the house?
Yes, sir, we did.
And that's what generally the video is depicting from here on out?
Yes, sir, it is.
that that empty box we were just talking about earlier?
Yes, sir, it is.
For the record, we're at 28 minutes and 59 seconds. Right up there, the top of the screen, on top of those little shelves. Do you know what that is?
I don't see where you're talking, sir.
Let me back it up. You can step down for me real quick. Back it up one more time. That silvery thing, you know what that is? Right there.
I didn't catch a good look at it, sir. It looks like a juice box drink.
Okay, 2 Sprite strings. All right, keep on going if you would, please. I'm just kind of fast forwarding it. What's generally going on right here?
Still looking for any additional weapons or ammunition.
Right there on the image at 3804, who's sitting on the couch?
That would be Attorney Chris Wilson.
All right, bear with me, I'm gonna kind of fast forward through this. For the record, I'm at 4708. See who was on your cell phone right there?
Yes, sir, I did.
Who was that?
Captain Ryan Neal.
Is that your boss at the time?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. And so what are you doing right now?
I'm fixing to step outside to talk to him.
All right. Does your body camera go off at that point?
It does.
All right. Tell me what happens when you go outside. Do you go outside that stoop we showed earlier?
Yes, sir, I go out of the side door, same door we entered.
All right. And what, if anything, did you observe outside?
I observed on the ground, right at the edge of the stoop, what appeared to be a .300 blackout spent shell casing, a paired to be weathered as if it had been there for some time.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you decide to do at that point?
After talking to Captain Neal, I went back inside. I asked Special Agent Anthony Sampson to step outside with me so that we could secure those shell casings. We again activated the body-worn camera, and we walked outside and we secured those, or we secured shell casings from around that stoop.
Okay. Bear with me real quick. Been marked as State's Exhibit 260 for identification at this time, and I want you to have to take a look at that and see if you recognize that.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. Let me take them back real quick. And what are these?
Those are the spent shell casings which I picked up from around the stoop on the outside of 4147 Moselle Road outside the gun room.
All right. And when you say that they were in weather condition, what do you mean by that?
The brass is tarnished. They had dirt in them. It just appeared they had been sitting in the weather for a while.
Okay. And did, if I could have the elements out, please. Did they appear to be shiny, like the bullets that were with the magazine that the jury earlier saw from the prior exhibit?
No, sir.
All right, I'm just going to put this exhibit without objection, put it up on the screen. It's marked for identification at this time. And again, if you could describe for the jury the condition of those cases when they caught your eye.
I apologize. I couldn't hear what you said.
My apologies. Again, if you would, just describe for the jury what you're talking about about these cases when you that caught your eye when you saw them outside.
Well, the brass was not shiny as a new casing would be. It appeared that it had been sitting in the weather for some time. It had began to tarnish inside of the where the bullet had been expelled from the end. The inside had dirt, grass. Obviously, it had been there for a while.
What was the brand and type of ammunition that's in this particular exhibit that you found?
S&B 300 BOK, Butch Blackout.
Let me go to the video if I could, please. What are y'all doing on the screen right here?
We are locating the 300 shell casings.
What's Agent Sampson doing right there?
He is picking the shell casing up.
Is that one of the casings that's in this bag right here that you identified?
Yes, sir, it is. That is another shell casing on the, if you're facing the door or the stoop door, it'd be on the left-hand side of the stoop.
Ones that are in this bag, State's Exhibit 260?
Yes, sir, it is.
And what brand and type?
S&B 300 be okay.
Just picked up.
That would be another S&B 300 blackout shell casing.
One of the ones in this bag we've been talking about?
Yes, sir.
Fast forward just a little bit. Y'all collected all 5 cases that are in this bag?
Yes, sir, we had.
Go to any other locations that day? What day is this right now, with those videos you just watched?
6/8 of 21.
21. On June 8th of 2021, the day after the murders, did you go to any other location in the property to search, to your recollection?
I don't think it was that day, no, sir.
Okay. Did you ultimately go and search a shed at the property?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. And what specifically did y'all search at the shed?
The trash that had been taken away from the house.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 161, your testimony, and see if you recognize that exhibit.
Yes, sir, I do.
What that exhibit is, please.
This is a video of my body-worn camera when we were actually digging into trash that was, we took to the shed and dug through.
Your Honor, this time I would offer State's Exhibit 161 into evidence, I believe without objection.
That's correct.
Submitted.
All right. This time, I'm going to publish Exhibit 161. Tell me what we're seeing. We're at 28 seconds in. What are we seeing right there?
That is the large shed that's our hangar. Just probably to the right middle of the screen would be the dog kennels, dog house. To the far right is the, I think it's chicken coop. But the shed is where we went through some trash that we had secured.
All right. Step down for me, if you would, please. Let's kind of point that out for the jury. So where are the kennels in this particular video?
The kennels are right here.
And where's the feed room in this video?
The feed room would be right here on the end.
All right. Where's the little dog house in this video?
This would be the dog house.
All right. What is this thing right there underneath the shed?
That's UTV under the shed.
And then the kennels extend down this way with various cages?
Yes, sir, it does.
Thank you. You can retake your seat. What are y'all about to do right here?
We're about to dig in trash.
Digging trash?
Yes, sir.
Is that a fun job?
It's not, but it has to be done.
All right, at 124, I'm just going to fast forward it some. What is that image right now at 145 that's on the screen?
That is a empty box, 12 gauge premium turkey load ammunition.
All right, and what is that right there?
An empty box of 12 gauge long beard, 3.5 inch, let's see, 2 ounce, number 4 shot.
And what is that right there?
That is a empty box of 12 gauge. It's got Browning on it, TSS. It's a 3.5 inch, 2 1/4, number 7 and 9.
All right, for the record, I'm fast forwarding then. What is this right now that we're seeing at 3 minutes and 7 seconds?
That is appeared to be a credit card statement or receipt and it's got an item circled on it.
And was, there was an item circled on it?
That is correct.
And what was the store on that particular item?
Goosey store?
Gucci?
Yeah.
And what was the amount?
$1,021.10.
Okay. And somebody had circled that particular entry, is that correct?
That is correct.
For the record, I'm just fast forwarding through, y'all searching through the trash, is that right?
Yes, sir, we are.
Did you find anything else of note in that trash?
No, sir, we did not.
All right. One moment. All right, I'm going to show you, stand by for me real quick. All right, I'll show you what's been marked as, stand by. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 214, which is an evidence bag, and see if you recognize what's in there.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, tell me what's in that bag.
These are the shell boxes which I described on the video, or observed on the video, and it's the receipt, credit card receipt, which was torn, that we collected from the trash.
All right, the one with the circle thing with Gucci on it?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, this time I've moved State's Exhibit 214 in evidence, I believe without objection.
Did it?
I'm going to jump ahead in the story just a little bit. Did you ultimately return out to the scene to do an additional search, or out to the property as a whole to do an additional search?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right, and you remember what date that was? Roughly?
I think it was the 13th.
Okay. And what were you looking for on that particular search?
Again, looking for any firearms, shells, shell casings that would could be tested for a potential weapon to use during a crime.
All right. And do you remember who were some of the other agents that were out there, or what else was going on at that time?
I think Agent McAllister was there. If I'm not mistaken, Mindy may have been there. There was a number of agents there.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification, or marked right now, is State's Exhibit 152 and 151, and see if you recognize those items generally.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. And can you tell the jury just generally what those items are?
It's 300 blackout ammunition and a magazine containing 300 blackout ammunition that was collected.
All right. And was this collected at various locations on the property during that search?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, this time I'd all say 152 and 151 into evidence, I believe without objection.
No objection.
Later, without objection, how much more time do you have with this witness on direct?
There's still a fair amount to cover, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break, talking only to the jury. Everyone else remains seated. We will reconvene at in an hour and 20 minutes. An hour and 20 minutes. Please go to the jury room. With regard to the admission of the guns, anything further the state or the defense would like to place on the record?
Well, Your Honor, I would put some further argument in the record in that the guns had been tested ballistically. The test excluded the guns as being in the murder, as murder weapons, my understanding, and as a result, they're just not relevant. They have photos of the guns, which is completely sufficient information for the jury and to get the information in that they were tested. But sending, just weapon after weapon back into the jury room during jury deliberations, we think is unfairly prejudicial.
All right. And response, Mr.
Your Honor, the defense, as you might expect, has already challenged the sufficiency of the investigation and what was done. I think the state, not only just generally, but also certainly in response to those lines of examination, is entitled to show the extent of the examinations that were done in analyzing the relevant firearms evidence that was on scene. This agent gathered 12-gauge weapons for a reason, because 12-gauge rounds were used to murder Paul Murdaugh, and therefore admission of those we believe is relevant and not overly prejudicial. Certainly nothing about the way we did that examination did anything that was prejudicial. It was all very straight to the point.
Right. Relevant evidence means any evidence tending to make the existence of any fact that is of consequence to the determination of the action more or less probable than it would be without the evidence. This evidence of these guns were part of the crime scene in and around the crime scene at or around the time of the murders. Issues have been raised regarding multiple guns, multiple shooters, multiple spent rounds, and the court, in its discretion, have admitted the evidence as being relevant, and there's no dispute that the defendant had multiple guns in and around his place, and I find that it's relevant and more probative than prejudicial, and that's the basis for the court's order with regard to admitting that evidence. And we'll be on break for an hour and 20 minutes.